thumbnail up there.
Okay.
And then that's a picture of you last time you were with me on the show.
Oh.
And it's a better picture of you.
I didn't wear a suit either.
No. You didn't. Probably same thing. Okay. Hit the space bar. There you go. We're here. We're live. Thanks so much for joining us. I have an intro, but I'm not going to use it today because I'm not ready. So that's the way it works. I have music, and I had my co-host was Jimmy, was my nephew Jimmy. First, I want to introduce our guest today is Attorney George Bellis. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
I told you I watched our last interview. It's in the description below. So if you have an opportunity, I'd say watch that because we went into a lot of his work that he did with the class action lawsuits and tires, and we talked about Citizens United, and we talked about jury selection. We talked about your background. So it was a lot of fun. I as watching, I noticed I laughed a lot. So that's always a good interview as far as I'm concerned.
The only thing I'm missing here, I think there should be a fern here, so we could do between two ferns.
Now, I have only seen that show, bits and pieces of it. The one with Hillary Clinton, and then there was one with, I forget somebody else that I said, but not too much. I don't watch. Did you watch it?
Yeah, on occasion.
Podcasts are the thing, kind of the Joe Rogan. You watch Joe Rogan at all?
A little bit.
Okay, so I watch him. My kids watch it, so they always get me to listen. And I have to say, I've gotten some. I've heard some good people on his show, especially about bear hunting and things like that.
Bear hunting.
Bear hunting.
Okay.
He's a bear hunter, so I thought I've learned a lot about that. But maybe I'll have to take that into consideration. The problem with it, we're in the law library, as you can see. The problem with a green fern would be it would blend into my to my background.
The green screen.
Well, I don't want to tell people it's a green screen.
Okay.
It isn't. We're in the law library.
Wow.
This is the law library interview.
Okay.
So again, last time we talked about first let people know what you do and who you are and how that works. Now, I want you to use that second camera there, Lucas. There you go. And so tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm an attorney, first and foremost. I grew up in the Chicago area, went to law school at Loyola. I've been practicing for almost 50 years.
Wow.
Wow. That means I've lived long enough to practice 50 years.
Yeah.
I like what I do. I have a firm in Park Ridge. Most of my work is in business and business litigation. I've been involved in various things. Got involved in some very big lawsuits in my career. Very lucky to have survived them. I admonish my clients, try to avoid litigation whenever possible.
Yes, very good advice.
Yeah, fortunately, when you do, you better buckle up.
Get the right guy.
Get the right guy and buckle up. And I've associated with some big firms and worked with them on some big cases, and it's fun.
Well, let's talk. I'm going to go back a little bit. Talk about your 50 years of experience as an attorney.
Now that I say it out loud,
I know. I think young people don't really understand, and I know I didn't. That time goes by. I look back and say, with some of my friends, I say, we've known each other a long time, and they stop and think, 40 years, 50
exactly.
years. It's like,
exactly.
Wow, that's a long time.
I used to make fun of my mother reading the obituaries every day. Now I understand why.
Yes.
She wants to see what's happening. But I think my mother did it mostly to see where she was going to go for lunch that day.
So I have a friend that does that. He always alerts me when anybody I know passes. He reads the obituaries every day, so lets me know. So I have someone keeping an eye on us for
There
me.
you go.
I noticed that last time I didn't ask you this question, and so I want to ask you this question that I've asked a lot of attorneys, and especially with your experience, it's important. I have two sons, and both of my sons are in law school, and so I want.
I'm sorry for your pocketbook.
They're on a free ride.
That's very good.
Yeah, both of them.
That's congratulations.
So good.
Yes.
But here's what I want to know. I want to know what kind of advice someone like yourself would have for law students or new attorneys, or what kind of advice would you have
For a law student? For a law student, what you're going through is a pledge period, like joining a fraternity or sorority. You have to go through it. You're going to learn how to rethink things. Law school teaches you the Socratic method. If we read something and we only see one part of it, law school kind of teaches you to look at a problem three-dimensionally to see if there's a different angle that would benefit your client. So it's a new way of thinking. Practicing law, you have to learn. You don't have to learn. You have to do what calls to you. If you don't want to do plaintiff's personal injury, then don't do it. If you want to do insurance work, do that. If you want to work in a corporation in-house, do that. But whatever you do, make sure that you like it, because you're going to spend a big part of your life doing it, and you're going to be invested in it. And if you don't like it, you'll never be happy. But if you do things that make you happy, and in my case, I've tried to do things that call to me. I don't represent anybody who walks in the office. I've always been selective. If it doesn't smell good, I stay away from it. And I try to be as honest as I can with, I guess that's the best advice I can get. Be honest with yourself and be honest with other people. Everybody thinks that lawyers, they make fun of it. Lawyers lie, they twist words. That's not true. Between lawyers, if a lawyer lies to you and you find out that he's lied to you, you can never trust his word again. So therefore, that interferes with your relationship in your dealing with the other side in that litigation. So you have to be honest about it. If you can't tell the other side exactly what it is, just say, change the subject.
So let me interrupt you a little bit, because yesterday I had a conversation, and I wanted to also touch base with you about this, because yesterday I had a conversation with the client about just exactly what you're talking about, and because it's about taxes, and people think, well, as an attorney, I can kind of fudge things, right? Lie to save them money, but the real answer is, and I always tell them, if I'm honest, if I'm going to lie for you, I'll lie to you, right? And you don't want a lawyer that lies to you.
That's a very good point. If once you lie, you lie. There's no stopping it.
Yeah.
One lie leads to another. George Santos.
There you go.
What was his first lie, do you think, that got him on the road to down that path? Was it psychological? Does he have a mental issue? Is he sociopathic? Or is it just something that snowballed and he got away with one and it led to another?
And led him to Congress.
Go figure.
It's kind of an amazing thing, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
But I think it's what you said there about lying is so important, and I think you're right. A lot of people believe that lawyers are liars, and they have that reputation, and some are, obviously.
Well, I've been in some parts of the country where the way they say lawyers sounds like liars, right? Liars, right? Okay.
The South.
Yeah. No, I didn't. In some parts of the country. Yeah, could be. Anyway.
Then let's go. I know you help a lot of business owners, and we talked a little bit about this last time you were on the show. We talked about business owners, and I wanted to ask you, because in the last 3-4 consultations I had, I got the same, because I help people with taxes, and they're business owners, and I got the same answer. It's kind of a reoccurring thing, and I wanted to ask you about this, about people trying to obtain the American dream, People say, I need. They're trying. That's why they start their own business. I know you help a lot of people start their own business. Can you talk a little bit about that? About what you see when people are trying to start their own business.
Boy, that's a complex question.
It is.
Everybody, not everybody. I read a book once and they said there's really two types of people. There are bureaucrats, the people who show up for work, say, I'm here for 8 hours, I want to get paid for hours. Whether they do anything or not, they want to get paid for 8 hours. The other side of the coin are entrepreneurs. And those are the people that understand that if they want to make money, they have to create something of value. And in creating something for value for other people, that becomes valuable and they get paid for it. So you have to have a mentality that you're going to be, you have to understand that you're going to be working and you're going to be striving to do something, and you may not make money and you may not succeed, but you're going to try, and you can't get to first base until you get up to bat.
What I found, and is I'm reading a lot about successful people, like, because don't read too many books about unsuccessful people. Okay. But how many of them failed? Michael Jordan's his famous lines, right? I'm so good because I failed so often.
There's a lot of truth to that. But in giving people advice and starting a business, what you want to do is you can't be the business person, the idea. All you can do is say, if you go ahead with your idea, but along the way you should do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 steps that will just make sure that you don't make certain mistakes that are repetitive. If you don't organize properly to begin with, you're going to have a problem. If you've got a partner, you've got a problem already, and you don't even know it. All right. We are going to start this business together. Okay. What's your deal? Oh, we have this deal. All right. The worst one says, he's my brother and we love each other. I'm in court right now with brother suing brother after a business deal. I mean, it's just, you don't know where it's going to come from, but you have to be prepared for it. So have you registered properly with the IRS? Have you gotten your tax numbers? Have you done certain things like that? Do you have a trade name, a trademark that you want to protect? Is there something that you have to patent or even copyright? All these little things that you may omit or not recognize that you have to do in order to succeed, that's our job. Our job is to make sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed and the avenue is smooth for them to do what they do best. People aren't lawyers. They don't know what all the rules. I certainly don't know all the rules all the time.
Obviously, yeah.
But that's not their role. Their role is to get in there, make the product, go out, hustle, get business. Our job is to make sure they don't stumble along the way.
So I wanted, that's why I wanted to, I help people with small business also. You help them start it. I always help them unbury themselves, right? Because they didn't find you at the beginning, right? So people, as I talked about the American dream, so people have this, they just want to start a business. They don't really care. It's like, I'm just going to start it. And a lot of people started off on a whim, and they just quit their job and say, I'm doing this. And I give them a lot of credit because that's a very scary thing to do. But that's the way many people, I shouldn't say most, but many people start their business. And that's why I wanted to ask you about that, because again, by the time they come to see me, they're already in tax problems, right? And so then I try to do those things that you're talking about. Let's incorporate you. Who pays the most money in taxes in our society? Business owners, because they don't prepare, right? So I try to set them up in a business corporation and start. But it's harder now, right? Because now you have this tax debt that you're going to have to face.
I started helping people start their businesses before I finished law school. I've had a philosophy that I'm going to help you with your business from cradle to grave. All right. So I will help you get started. I will foster you along the way, hold your hand. And I have when I organize a business, I tell people, all right, we're going to organize your business. And we have this plan. We call it our corporate or business maintenance plan, trademark, by the way. And if there's a problem, call me. No charge for the phone call. Tell me what it is. Tell me what the problem is. Most of the time they call up and says, I got a letter from the Secretary of State that says this. I said, throw it away, right? You could deal with it. If it's complicated, the trade-off is you have to buy me a hot dog for lunch, all right? When you buy me a hot dog for lunch, it's usually going to be more expensive than the hot dog, all right? Because it means that there's a bigger problem. But I've got them talking about the problem. That helps resolve the problem in advance. And then eventually businesses fail. What are the statistics? 50% of businesses fail in the first 5 years. I don't remember exactly what it is.
I think it's higher than that, but you're right. It's like most don't make it 5 years.
A lot of businesses fail in 20% at least fail in the first year. How many businesses last 25, 50 years or a generational type of business? Those are exceptions to the rule. So you have to anticipate, okay, it's going to end. How do you deal with the end, right? If you're lucky, you'll sell it, right, and make money in the end. If you're even luckier, it'll pass on to your children, and it'll be a generational thing, like perhaps you'll do with your children, right?
We'll see.
You don't know. You don't know. Nobody does. And I have a client who's got five sons, all right, very successful. The first four are off doing their other thing. He didn't expect it, but the fifth son is going to be the one who's going to take over the business. So batting average of 200, I guess, isn't too bad, but it won't get you in the major leagues. But you don't know what's going to happen. No matter what business you're in, you don't know what's happening the next day. Every day is a new surprise. We see it in our practice. Every day is a new surprise. And that's one of the things that I really like about practicing law. There's nothing routine. If I had to do the same thing every day, if I had to sit at an assembly line and put the same part on the same piece of equipment every day, I would blow my brains out. I could not do that. I don't know how people do that. There are people who can do that. They're the ones who go to work and want to get paid. I can't do that. I have to have a challenge. And that's what's unique about how we practice law. Everybody's situation is different. We get creative in how we find an answer. We hit the books, see if it's happened before. We do a little research.
It almost always has.
That's one of the reasons we have law books.
That's right.
Right? And that's what stare decisis means. Stare decisis means we look to see what happens previously in a court, and so the court will do the same. Well, most courts will do the same thing over and over again, unless you're the Supreme Court. Then you can do whatever the heck you want. But that's we rely on what's happened before in our practice, and we research it. But we have to hit the books because we don't know every single. I don't care what lawyer it is. Most successful lawyers have a law clerk. What's the purpose of a law clerk, Steve?
Do the research.
Yes. I mean, that's what you want. You want the fresh brain, the fresh mind who's going to hit the books and let her tell you what the answer is, or him. And not the answer so much, what's happened before. So you know what to tell the client and give them some advice.
Bring these cases to your attention so I can refresh my recollection about what's going on.
Or learn something brand new.
Oh, that's true too. Yes.
Right?
That's right.
So it's challenging. And that's what we try to bring to the business owner's attention, that there are going to be things that you don't anticipate that are going to happen. And our job is to help you, foster you along the way. Foster is the wrong word, guide you. But that's what we do.
I think one thing that you mentioned here about your practice, and I think a lot of people don't realize also, your practice is a business, isn't it?
It is.
And so I don't know why people sometimes think lawyers is not a business. Tell me a little bit about your marketing plan. Do you have a marketing plan? What kind of plan is it? Is it just you've been around a long time, so you get a lot of referrals, or how does that work for you?
Marketing plan. I have a plan. It's not regimented, but I have a plan. I have a person who helps me with marketing. Mostly it's become internet driven, social media driven. I do various things. It also helps me keep I have a client list, all right? I know who my clients have been for the most part for 50 years. Originally, there were a lot little index cards, we had a roll of them. But now
that's why they called it the Rolodex.
That's right. And then now it's digital. And so we have our client's name. So we send out a newsletter every month. And it may be something idiotic. Well, I try not to be idiotic. It may be something silly. This month is going to be George has been named a super lawyer again for the 19th, 20th year or something like that. All right. Okay. I don't think it's a big deal, but people think that because I'm a super lawyer, that I have a cape and an S on my shirt, and I can do things underneath, maybe. But those things you want to bring to the attention of your old clients, and new clients look that over, and so you want to remind them I'm still here. All right.
Do you have blog posts? You do that?
I have a blog. A business blog, and I try to publish something every couple of weeks on it. And
now I'm being kind of in a roundabout way. I'm saying because I have a newsletter also, and I like to get guest authors to give me a blog and put it on my newsletter. So consider it.
Okay. It's hard enough for me to develop my own
No, but
stuff.
you already have one written. It goes in my newsletter that I could promote you. But anyway, I'm using
Is it hard copy or is it digital?
I have a hard copy. I send it out once a month.
We've stopped doing paper as much as possible.
This is there is this conflict or argument going back and forth whether you should do a paper but almost nobody does paper anymore, right? So this kind of stands out that way. I like the paper. It's a simple thing, but
it's a generational thing, Steve, too. Older people
who tends to be my clients.
Okay, tend to still read the newspaper. Okay, our children don't read the newspaper. No. They don't even know what a newspaper is. I mean, I look forward to Sunday mornings with the New York Times. All right, I only get it once a week, but I will sit there and have my pot of coffee in the New York Times every Sunday morning. I get ideas out of that too, and it makes me think, but it also relaxes me. But everything else is digital. I get my news now through Twitter. The Twitter feed will give me the news that's coming in. It'll happen. It'll be instantaneous. Like I really need instantaneous news, but everything else is digital and internet based. So we could talk about marketing and everything else like that. But for us, people, even old clients, I won't say old clients.
Older.
Our former clients. We can't say old. Our former clients will see us on the internet, right? And it reminds them, oh my God, I forgot that I have to do this. It triggers something. But our marketing is more focused on Google and what Google thinks is important for search engine optimization, SEO. And it's just like any other business has to do. If a business wants to do business today, it has to be internet savvy and internet based, and they have to worry about what Google thinks or Google likes that will put you forward, and without paying an arm and a leg for it. Now, you could buy keyword searches through Google and spend a lot of money. For example, personal injury, right? Every day there's a bid going on in Google for how much you pay, and for every time somebody clicks on personal injury, they come to you. It probably costs something like now $800 a hit. All right, it's a constant bid. So that every business has that same opportunity for pay for clicks. But the trick is to get Google to like you without paying for those clicks. And that's a real challenge. In my business, in my practice, I have an advantage. I've been doing it for a long time. My firm name, Bellis and Wachowski, has been out there for over 30 years. Google likes that.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. I just want to touch on something that you were talking about, is about the younger generation and newspapers. I love to ask young people, what does extra read all about it mean? And they have no idea. That's right. It's like, and you try to explain it to them. You mean newspapers used to come out more than once a day?
We used to, my folks used to get the Chicago Daily News in the afternoon. It was delivered at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The paper boy dropped it off, threw it up the stairs to your apartment, and you got to see the Chicago Daily News in the afternoon. In the morning, you looked at the Sun-Times or the Tribune on the train or on the bus. But in the evening, you got your evening news, and then you watched Walter Cronkite.
So it's just amazing to me about the generational thing that you were talking about, and it really is. I agree with everything you've just said about Google, and it's really about doing things that Google likes, and what they're looking for you. What the people who are clicking, what are they looking for? And so then you give them what they're looking for, right? Which is experience, right? Good advice, and that you've been around a long time. All of this is important to Google, as you pointed out.
I don't know what's important to Google, right? Mm-hmm. And it changes all the time.
It does change, yeah.
And so,
although I don't think that would change. There's a lot of things that do change, but that core doesn't change because that's what people are looking for when they go to Google.
Pretty much. I mean, the Google, what Google considers juicy, what I call Google juice, what they want. They want original content. They want stability in who you are, and they don't want you to be too wordy. I mean, people write blogs that are, 3,000 words. Nobody reads. Nobody, everybody. I want my news like Twitter. I want it in 3 lines. Give it to me, and then if I want to go in depth, I'll go to someplace else. But give me my 3 lines of news.
I know you're interested in technology. Right?
Yes.
Because I know we talked the last time you were here, you were telling me about your first phone and your first computer. You were telling me about your first computer. And I know that technology is that you're interested in. Have you been following this AI thing?
Yes. In fact, I just had a conversation this morning. I'm with the Illinois State Bar Association. We're organizing our Allerton Conference. And the topic is going to be the use of technology in the courts. And one of the things we're going to discuss is the use of artificial intelligence to resolve small claims cases. And it's being done in parts of the world. Yeah. And one of the topics, so that's going to be one topic, but then the other thing that's going on right now is this chat GPT. Mm-hmm. And what it is, we're not sure of. I just started playing around with it, and somebody wants to interview me for a magazine article tomorrow about the use of Chat GPT and whether or not it's going to replace things, and whether or not you do it with Google now.
So I've been doing a lot of research about this. I have what they call Jasper. I don't know if you've heard of it. I have a Jasper account. Some months ago, I was watching some a webinar of a marketing person, and they were saying, "Well, this is where I get my ideas for the videos and stuff." I'm like, "This from Jasper." I'm like, "This is amazing." I was just amazed at it, and then this Chat GPT came out. It was so I was just getting interested, and then this came out, and I'm like, so I've been doing a lot of research on this large language model, right? This is what it's based on. And I don't know if you saw this recently, but the Chat GPT passed the Bar Association and a medical license.
Did it really?
Yes.
I didn't see that.
And I saw something yesterday. It got a C+ in law school.
That's not bad.
No, it isn't bad.
Yeah. It took a while for Watson to beat somebody in chess.
It did.
When they did.
The Big Blue.
Yeah. And beat everybody in Jeopardy. But eventually they did, and they kicked
I'm a chess guy too, so the stockfish and all this. You can't beat a computer anymore in chess.
No.
So it's coming, and AI is going to be. It's a tool, and I talk a lot with my kids about this because as I mentioned, they're both in law school. So where is that going in the legal profession? And where's it going in law school? And where's it going in college? I saw yesterday another article that I think I'm trying to remember what school just banned it.
Yes, people.
But you can't. Really
they're saying that you could write your essays and your term papers on it.
Yes.
Who knows? I haven't tried it in that much depth. I've just been toying with it and saying, okay, I've researched this before. Let me try it here, and it's pretty good.
Yes.
Right.
It's really about prompts, how you ask it. Mm-hmm. And that's the training that you have to have as an attorney, I think, about how you ask it the questions. Because if you don't ask the right questions, it won't give you the right answers.
Well, the ultimate question is going to be, is this going to replace courts, or is it going to replace lawyers or anything else like that? But, I mean, I don't think it'll replace courts.
I agree with
because there's
and it won't replace lawyers.
The human element of the courts, how are you going to impart the gut feeling that a jury may get on a case to rule? I don't know. It'll get close. I think it could be used, artificial intelligence now. I think it can be used to resolve a lot of routine issues that come up. For example, I have a MasterCard, and somebody has a MasterCard, they run up a debt and they can't pay it. All right, so MasterCard hires a lawyer and sues them, and you go to court, and what's the defense? All right, I didn't charge it, maybe, but that I owe the money. So you go to court and you have to waste time to do everything else like that. Why not have a system where, if that's the case, somebody sues on your MasterCard account, you do it expeditiously so you don't have to take a day off of work and go downtown and go to court or anything else like that. You just have a judgment entered for that amount of money. And then you deal with the judgment, and which is more important, how are you going to pay it off, which is ultimately the issue anyway. That could be done routinely. You don't have to have the judge there. You don't have to have a plaintiff and a defendant and a witness, everything else to resolve. Artificial intelligence can deal with that very easily. It's the tough ones that artificial intelligence is not going to be able to deal with. The ones that have the human factor, the ones between, how about marriages, all right? How are you, custody of children?
Partners in a business.
Partners in a business, which is very, father-son in a business, brothers in a business. I don't know, but it does have a place. It's going to be able to do research. It's going to give the judge the law. This is the black letter law. This is what has happened before. And that the judge can look at that and say, okay, with these set of circumstances, this is the law. However, as we learned in law school, every case is different. There may be, okay, out of the 9 factors that we talked about, or out of the 10 factors we're looking for, 9 match this scenario. So in 9 out of 10 cases, this is what happens. But there's that one little fact that we forgot about, all right? I remember standing in front of a judge one time. My associate said, you have to go to court. I said, why? She says, you need to go to court. The judge is going to rule against us. You got to go. I said, okay, I'll walk in. I walked into court, and this is my associate describing it when we came back. George strutted up to the courtroom, okay? And and I listened to the other side make their argument, and I sat there and I said, Your Honor, he is absolutely correct for what he said, except he forgot one little fact, all right? And that one little fact is this. And that little fact prevents them from getting what they want. And the judge says, you know what, you're right. And then it got cute and I could get away with this because I'm older. She said,
called experience.
Yes, it is. And she says, well, we have to write up the order. What do you see? I says, well, I suggest we put this, and this in the order, and we'll give him some of what he wants, but we'll write this in the order. She says, okay, why don't you write up the order? And I says, very well, Your Honor. And she says, I could use you more often. You want to write up more of my orders? And I said, respectfully, Your Honor, I don't think you can afford me. Right. That's all I have now, Steve. I have stories, okay?
Well, the stories, that's what makes, actually, that's how you can relate the information you have to others. But you can't tell people things without telling them a story.
But the point is that I don't think artificial intelligence is going to remember that one little nuance. I agree. That's going to turn it around.
I think where people are getting afraid of it, that it's going to replace everything. I just look at it. It's another tool. You can't. They're trying to ban it somewhere. You can't really ban it. It is what it is. It's only going to get better. It's not going to get worse. Right?
I was thinking about
GPT-4 is coming out.
Whatever it is, when we were in school, there are Cliff Notes. All right, you use Cliff Notes. All right? It was a tool to help me. I could not figure out for the life of me what the point of Lord of the Flies was. All right, so I got Cliff Notes. Cliff Notes. Oh, that's what it's about.
Well, I happen to know people who are in high school who have books and never read the book. Okay, and I was like, "You got to read the book." No, I get all the information out of here.
Books? What are you talking about? What? You mean an e-book? Oh no, paper book. Okay.
So it's just another tool, I think.
So what are you going to do with all these books around you, Steve?
These are for the history. Very good question. I'm trying to remember the last time.
I have an extensive personal library, right? And every recycling day, when they come out with the bin and everything else like that, I try to take 2 books off the shelf.
I can't
because. Well, they're not first editions, first of all right? But sooner or later, I have to get rid of them. They're not going with me to the next location. I can tell you that.
I get it. I hate that. I can't throw things away. But to be honest with you, if I stop and think, when's the last time I picked up a book and read it? I generally will. I have audiobooks, so I do a lot of audiobooks. Mm-hmm. As I'm exercising or something, and I read a lot online. As an attorney, I have a lot to read.
I'm a little old-fashioned. I still have books.
I'm trying to remember the last time I read a book, and I get them. Oh, I know. I do have a book about a daily Catholic reading, so I do.
Okay, there you go.
So I do that.
Right.
So I do.
Now you're a good Catholic.
I try to be. And that's all of us try to be. So, I know we're going to run out of time here, and I don't want to let this go without this one question that I love to ask, especially an attorney like yourself, who's has a lot of experience, and also for my kids, because I like to put these together.
I'm afraid of your questions. You know that.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
No, you're not. Because here's the question: what do you think makes a good lawyer?
When I first started practicing law, I have an image of what a lawyer is, okay? back in the day, it was the Norman Rockwell lawyer sitting at a big oak desk with papers stacked up all around him, an ashtray
I
with
love Norman Rockwell.
an ashtray with a cigar, half a smoked cigar sitting in the ashtray, a dog at his feet. All right, pictures of his family in the background. That's when we started practicing. That was the image of the lawyer. Okay, and then I ran into a woman, very intelligent and very compassionate. And I remember we were in a group, and I sat there and I said, I used to have this image of a lawyer, but it's not. You're now my image of a lawyer, all right? And then I ran into somebody else, one of my colleagues, and now I have a different image of a lawyer. Image, not necessarily anything else. Image. But going to your question is, what makes a good lawyer? Number one, you have to know the law, and you have to know the area of law that you're in, and you just can't read about it. You have to know it. You have to been there. You have to sweated it. You have to gone through it and fought for it. Number one. Number two, you have to believe in your client's position. You have to. If you don't believe in your client's position, you cannot advocate it. I've listened to Supreme Court arguments where they're two different. I listened to the arguments in Dobbs. All right, these are passionate people who believe in both of their positions. Very good. They're all good lawyers, and they really follow their position. They advocate not just for their clients, but they believe it. All right. So I think the very best lawyers I know really believe in their client's position and what they do, and they're pushing for it. Right? Those are the best.
Well, that's a very good answer, and I like to put these together, because because I like to show my kids this is what I think is a good lawyer. And although what you're saying has to do with experience more than than a younger lawyer, right? Because he doesn't have that knowledge or have fought. I always say, you could read the law, read the statute, but until you get you get a case that involves that issue.
It's personalized.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, that's what that means. That's what that comma means. That's what that's what that paragraph that we kind of like just gloss over. And you don't really know what it means until you start writing for a client about exactly that position.
I think the most challenging thing that lawyers do is representing people in a criminal prosecution. The facts are against them, right? They're going to be convicted. How do you represent somebody who has just murdered somebody? It's a difficult thing to do until you recognize that person sitting there, for the most part, right? There are exceptions.
Yes.
There are the really sickos, John Wayne Gacy's, but there are people whose lives were affected by a mistake that they made. I remember being appointed to represent a 16-year-old kid who ran with the wrong crowd and got involved in a situation that just got out of hand, and they tried him as an adult, and he was going to be convicted. And I sat there. I remember it was in a small community outside of Chicago. It made the newspapers every day, and I was sitting there. I was vilified for representing this kid that did this ugly, awful thing. And I did it. And afterwards, the reporter who was reporting it came up to me and congratulated me for doing what I had to do, which was represent that kid whose life is going to be affected. It happened 48 years ago, and the kid is still in jail.
Yeah. I know, just to remind people, I know you were a prosecuting attorney when you first got out of law school. And that's one of the questions I always ask, but I already asked you that question. But I just wanted to, because you had this background of being in court for criminal matters. So that's a good story. And again, I get these where it comes from, experience, right? Having lived through it.
Here, it also comes from here. It has to come from here. If it's not here, it ain't going to happen.
Well, that's very good. I wanted to before we cut this off, I wanted to ask you if you had something that you'd like to talk about. We talked a little bit about your bar association work. Maybe we could talk a little bit about that and tell me what you're doing for the bar.
I'm a former president of the Northwest Suburban Bar Association.
Because you're out in Niles, aren't you?
No, Park Ridge.
Park Ridge.
Right. And I was president, 30 years ago? Before, I have a need to teach people, especially lawyers. I mentor a lot of lawyers. So I started this thing at the courthouse once a month, having lunch and learn with Geo. And I started at the courthouse before the pandemic. And I did it for about a year, every month at the courthouse, trying to focus on technology-related issues for lawyers in the courtroom and in their practice. The pandemic hit, and nobody was going to court. So I started doing it by Zoom. And because lawyers were not mingling, they were sitting in their basements or in their garages or wherever they were practicing law during the pandemic with a camera on. And the biggest selling item at that time was the halo lights, right? So I started doing it once a week so that lawyers can get together by Zoom, if nothing else, lecturing to them. And now I'm still doing it every other week though. And it still is Lunch and Learn with Geo, sponsored by the Northwest Suburban Bar Association. It's still by Zoom, because not that many people are going to the courthouse yet. That's another story. Sure, yeah. But I still do it by Zoom, and I still try to focus on technology-related issues. Just the other day, I did one with a speaker talking about the 8 things that lawyers must do to protect themselves from scams and phishing scams that for some reason, I've seen so many of them, not just lawyers, business people getting hurt by scams. So I did one about how lawyers should, in their firms, do things to protect themselves and their their client's personal information, confidential information, what they can do to protect that from being scammed, being phished, by being hacked. And it's scary what's happening out there with the hacking. And the speaker showed a video of the hacker. We used to think it was a Nigerian prince sitting in a cafe, in Tangiers or wherever, doing this. But it was a young woman sitting in a Starbucks doing the hacking and using information that they pick up from the dark web. And it's scary what's out there and what people can find out about you. And he even showed there's a program that you think that your password is encoded and has 16 characters and it's encoded. They have a program that'll break it out, and they gave an example of this person. Turned out that her password was her name, all lowercase. That was her password, all right? But it was all 16-bit encoded. No, they decoded it. It happens. So we as lawyers who are entrusted with people's confidential information, look at, if they got into your files, a hacker got into your files, the tax return gives them carte blanche to do almost anything they want with that person's information. Yeah. So how do you protect it? So what have you done to protect it? What do you do to stop, stopping your secretary getting a message that's saying, click on this to get an important fax? Yes.
It's a tall order, right? Especially
it's not just yours,
because right? You're saying it's people that are working for you, and they could be.
But it's not your personal information now. If it happens to me, it happens to me. No, that's right. We're talking about you've got 200 clients, all right? That's right. 200 active clients, I hope, all right? Then all that information is there. But what about the 10,000 clients you've represented for the last 40 years?
It's all in there, yeah.
It's all there too now. So once they get in, they're in.
I have to.
So we have to do something about protecting. So I did a webinar. Right?
I'm really, there's, as you probably know this, most attorneys not very technology savvy.
No, they're Luddites. You know what a Luddite is?
I do not.
Okay, Luddite.
I've heard the term.
Luddite is somebody who fights against using technology. Just fights it.
Yes.
Right. I don't know. It came from somebody who it is, but they're Luddites. Right. And I laugh at them sometimes. In meetings where I said he doesn't know how to do something because even people that come to my webinars, their wives or their grandchildren are helping them get into my Zoom meetings. They can't even get into the Zoom meeting with me. How are they going to go to court by Zoom?
I'm a kind of a tech guy myself. I have a master's in information technology law.
Wow.
Yeah, so
that's impressive for a lawyer.
Yeah, so I know a little bit about this stuff, but I'm always amazed at attorneys who, because they seem so uninformed about it, and that they don't want to be informed about it, as you mentioned. So, I'm glad I asked that final question because it was a great.
You
answer.
got good questions, Steve. You make me think.
Well, I want, and I appreciate you taking, because I love when I ask you a question and you take a second and you think about what your answer is going to be. So I like that. I like that a lot. It means I'm asking the right questions. So I want to thank you so much for being here today. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
I laughed as much as I did the last time you were here. That's, to me, that it's a great afternoon. So
Good.
thanks so much. Thank you, sir. And